This is Steve Harvey. I want to say welcome to everybody at the AIN Group Virtual Live and Learn Conference. Listen, 2020 has been really, really crazy for so many people, but you all have hung in there. Continue to keep your head up. You're doing wonderful work, and hey, look, the bottom line is, and the blessing in all of this, we're all still here. So keep your chin up, keep working hard, have a great 2021. The fact that we're here is hope that 2021 will be better. All right, thank you very much. Enjoy yourself today.
Hello and good morning or afternoon. I am Diana Rotundo, Senior Vice President of AIN Group. Change. You may be wondering why you have me instead of Stan to officially welcome you to the virtual Live and Learn conference this year. Sometimes life throws you a curveball, and we were dealt a curveball. Well, I'm happy to report that nobody, including the first responders, were hurt. Stan had a catastrophic fire at his home and not only lost his home, but lost all his personal belongings. So he will be taking a short leave of absence, and your prayers would be greatly appreciated. So today you have me. Hopefully it's not so bad. Like so many of you, 2020 found us challenged beyond our capacities and perhaps steps away from very drained resources, as we all know. Charles Darwin once quoted to say, "It is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the ones most responsive to change." Yet instead of folding to the demands, we have all persevered and survived. And that is to be celebrated. Although we would have loved to have been in Arizona all together, we have planned a great lineup of speakers, presentations, ideas, and giveaways that will indeed benefit you and your business in the coming months. And on behalf of myself and our great AIN team, I really want to thank everybody for staying loyal and committed through some of the biggest challenges and changes we have all endured this year. Without further ado, let us get started.
Elliot Eisenberg, PhD, is an internationally acclaimed economist and public speaker specializing in making economics fun, relevant, and educational. Dr. Eisenberg earned a BA in economics with first-class honors from McGill University in Montreal, as well as a master and PhD in public administration from Syracuse University. Eisenberg is the chief economist for Graphs and Maths LLC, an economic consultancy that serves a variety of clients across the United States. He writes syndicated columns and authors a daily 70-word commentary on the economy that is available at www.econ70.com.
And backed by popular demand, comedian Dr. Elliot Eisenberg.
Wow, thank you for that warm welcome, all of you. Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully we'll get this going. Let me do one more push here, and I think we should be good to go now.
Yeah.
Wow, let's begin. So there's a ton to talk about. It's unbelievable. It doesn't stop. The economic data just keeps bombing at us. Let's go back to basics like we always do. GDP is composed of 4 terms. C, household consumption, 69% of GDP. Very important. I, corporate investments in plant and equipment, about 16% of GDP. Government, another 16% of GDP. And exports minus imports in brackets, -2, because we run a trade deficit. In the short run, we care primarily right now about C and G. We're going to have G stimulating us with deficit spending and getting $600 checks, enhanced unemployment benefits, and so on, all designed to get C to go up. And we'll spend more money, and that will help our economy survive while COVID continues to rage. We have done a relatively poor job in suppressing COVID, although not all that poor compared to other countries. Worse, but not wildly. But because we haven't been able to suppress it like Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, and China, we have to offer more fiscal stimulus to compensate, to keep us alive, the bridge, if you will, from the present to the future. We've done pretty well through March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. But December data is going to be substantially weaker, as will Q1, because the aid that's come from the federal government, the pandemic assistance, came very late in Q4, and it will take a while for people to have it to influence people. Let's begin to look at the data and see the good news and the bad news. The good news, car sales. Housing sales are great. We'll talk about that later. Car sales are good. They really are. Car sales have come back with a vengeance. The only reason they haven't done better than they have is because fleet sales stink. That's what's going on. No one's flying on airplanes, so Hertz and Avis and those guys don't need cars. But they've come back pretty well. They're not going to do much better. Data came out this morning. We're roughly at 16 million. We're kind of done. We're down about 14% year over the full year of 19 versus 20 is down about 15. 21 should be a little better, but we're kind of caught up. So our economy is not going to improve based on car sales because they've already improved. Inventories will go up a little bit. Car prices may come down as inventories rise. Car companies have realized they can make more money if the cars are scarce, and they've pulled back on the inventory numbers. So there may be a permanent change there. Retail sales have done really, really, really well. This isn't the perfect indicator of our economy. Under normal conditions, I'd say if you see cars doing well, housing doing well, which we'll talk about later, and retail sales doing well, I would say our economy is on fire, but it's not. It's not doing as well as these data indicate because of the change in consumer spending. We're not going to bars. We're not going to ballet. We're not going to basketball. We're not going to baseball. All the money that we're saving by not doing these services, going to these service events or experiential things, we're spending on stuff. We're buying cars and all swimming pools and RVs and stuff. So stuff where you take it home or as inventory have done well. But there's two buts here. One, you can see the numbers declining a bit because we're running out of money. That's why Congress came through with the $900 billion. And as I mentioned a moment ago, we've changed our consumption patterns. You can see this here. There's the goods sector, which is doing really, really well, and the service sector, which is not. Under normal conditions in a regular recession, it's the opposite. You're fearful you're going to lose your job. You don't buy a car. You keep going out to eat. Now you say, well, I've kept my job. I'm going to buy another car because I don't want to commute. I don't want to take a bus to work. Or I'm moving to suburbia or exurbia. I'm buying a new house. So the normal, traditional, what we understand how recessions behave is completely out the window. If you look at this together, while goods are well up, they're up more than services are down. The problem is services are much, much bigger than goods. So overall, our economy is somewhat down. This has implications for you guys, right? People are spending more time at home. They're not going out. They're not traveling. They're not buying booze in restaurants. With that money they save, they're fixing up their houses. We're spending more time in our house, and that means we're going to spend more money on our house and do cool things and put alarm systems in there and movie theaters and all kinds of technological low voltage stuff. So we're direct beneficiaries of this, right? And you can see here the retail sales data that I showed you here sort of coming down a little bit. You can see it here in this graph. This is month over month change. And you can see March was terrible in April, then May was great, in June, July, August, September, October, November. We're kind of back to normal. Auto sales have returned to earth. They were terrible. They've come back up and they're now done. Retail sales skyrocketed, but they're coming back down to earth because we've bought a Peloton. How many Pelotons do you need? How many swimming pools do you need in your backyard? I hate to say this, but I only need one movie theater in my house. And once I have it, I'm done. So, you can pull some forward, you can create increased demand and pull forward, but at some point you begin to run out of gas. Retail sales are starting and incomes are going down because the money, the subsidy money from the government is going away as well. And consumer confidence struggles because the virus has gotten much worse. States like California are in large lockdown. I have family in Canada and Quebec, huge lockdowns up there, curfews and so on. So you can see consumer confidence for the last couple of months really hasn't done much. It went up, down again. But the virus is the problem. As the virus goes away, things will get appreciably better quite quickly. I really suspect this. This is a short-term problem. It's a serious problem. It's a healthcare problem, but it's short-term. And the problem is this number here is being strongly influenced by this. There's no way you can look at this data and not go, ouch. Number of hospitalizations is at an all-time high right now at over 120,000. The red's the number I want you to focus on. It's number of tests that are positive, the percent on the right-hand side. We're somewhere around 13%. This is much higher than the second wave right here at 5 or 6%. We're learning to live with the virus much better. We're accepting that it's here. We wear a mask and so on. Interventions are better. People go to hospital, don't stay so long. Mortality rates are way down. This is all great. But this isn't the way to, you can't run your economy and not have impacts because of it. As long as this continues, the desire to change houses, improve your house, not go out and spend on services and spend on money in your house, putting in new cabinets or alarm system or whatever it is, will continue. And this will probably continue for longer than we think because the vaccination process is going to take longer and is less efficient. That said, and this is important to point out, we will hit herd immunity at some point. There's no question we'll hit herd immunity. We're going to hit herd immunity because the purple is people who are sick and got the virus, and they retain some antibodies in their system for some duration of time. And then there's the blue, which is the people getting the vaccine. We're not exactly sure how high you have to get to herd immunity, but the point is, somewhere in the third quarter of 2021, under normal conditions, we hit some semblance of herd immunity, and then the number of that virus cases should really begin to decline quite substantially. So you've got to get here from January to somewhere into Q3, whether it's July or June or maybe August or September, October, we can argue, but it's a 6 or 7 month more thing, and then it probably really begins to go down substantially. But we've got to get there. And how is our economy managing? It's doing pretty well. If you look at airline travel, it's gone from here, where it was 30% of normal, now to almost 50% of normal. People are getting on airplanes. They want to go places. They're sick and tired. They'll wear a mask. They'll take some risk, but they're going to go. They can't stand being in their house, even though they have a spectacular movie theater in their house with fabulous Barcalounger chairs and a cool screen that comes down. They just want out, right? So data's pretty good. Here's hotel occupancy rates. They're improving. The key thing to look at here is the gap between red this year and blue, the average over like 20 years from 2000 to 18 occupancy rates. And you can see the gap is generally shrinking between the blue and the red. That's a good sign. People are going, this is mostly vacation travel. It's not business travel. Business travel doesn't want to take the risk of workers getting sick and suing the company. And firms have realized you don't need to travel so much. We don't need especially intra-office travel. So, if I have an office in Pittsburgh and an office in Los Angeles, they can go on Zoom now and meet. They don't have to physically travel from coast to coast to have a meeting. Now, you want to meet a client and sell a business proposition. Maybe there you got to go out and do that, but you may not have to do it for some. So business travel will take much longer to recover than personal travel. As personal travel recovers, spending will go up in these categories, and there'll be less money to spend on low voltage stuff too. Keep this in mind. The reason we're benefiting so much is because savings rates are higher because we're not doing lots of stuff. But as the vaccine goes up and herd immunity is reached and people get more confident, their spending patterns will return more or less to what they were before. And they're going to go out to tractor pulls and hockey games and restaurants and all that kind of stuff, right? So we're benefiting from this. Gasoline consumption, it's flat. It's flat at about 90% of prior consumption. Why? We're not taking our kids to school and we're not driving to work. I actually thought this would reduce gas consumption more, like 15, but apparently it's 10% because trucks are still going and all kinds of other activities that have to take place are continuing, right? Diesel fuels also, that's going crazy because we're buying more stuff and stuff only comes in a truck and a ship. So you can see some sectors back here, for example, are doing pretty well. Here we're doing pretty well. Here we're flat, however. And here's the problem. You can see here public transit. No one's going on public transit. Moreover, compared to where we were, we recover. And then sometime around early October, we start to go down because virus cases go up. Then there's vacations, which cause all kinds of weird data for holidays and stuff. But this is not a great sign. Another piece of not great news for our economy is this is restaurants that are open. So many restaurants gave up the ghost already. But among the ones that are open, you can see the trend here. Colder climates like New York are doing worse. Illinois is doing worse. By contrast, Texas and Florida, warmer climates are doing better. But they've all kind of, they peaked out somewhere here around late September, early October, where my cursor is. And since then, they've kind of declined. Even in the warmer climates, although now they're recovering a little bit, but in the colder climates, they got worse. Maybe there's some holiday effect here, but our economy's struggling. We can't quite get ourselves back to normal. You can see it here also in the percentage who work from home or work from work, as the case may be. More and more are working from home. You can see here working from the office peaked out somewhere around here, right, at 27%. And since then, it hasn't been so good. We're staying home. We're not going downtown. We're not, office towers are empty. The stores downtown are empty. The restaurants aren't doing well. There's this knock-on effect that runs through across the economy. This is a very interesting piece of data. I want you to look at the bottom. The bottom is how big the MSA is. The biggest MSA is in this color. It's on the bottom. The next biggest MSAs, 11 through 50th biggest MSAs, are this color. They're there. There's two things to keep in mind. The higher the size of your MSA, so New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, the big ones, Washington, Miami, Atlanta, Phoenix, they're in this biggest category in the very bottom. They haven't recovered very much. By contrast, the smaller ones, the rural ones on the bottom here in green, they've pretty much recovered. There are a whole bunch of reasons there aren't so many restaurants in rural towns, right? There are a lot more restaurants in big cities, hockey games, basketball arenas, you know, all that kind of stuff are in bigger cities. But the other thing to keep in mind, so how much you've recovered depends on how big you are. And the other thing is they've all gotten worse. They all peak out somewhere around here. This is week 40, 41, and they've all subsided since. So our economy's done some retrograde motion of late because coronavirus has gotten worse. Now, that said, the stock market is roaring. Low interest rates, no alternatives to put the money in. Where else are you going to put it in? This has caused stock, expected earnings are improving, but the stock market is absolutely on fire. This has helped us too. The stock market's doing well. I'll sell some shares of stock and invest in my home, fix up my house, add a new garage. I want to deck it out with a whole bunch of cool stuff, some technology or whatever it is, right? Put the lamps on a dimmer, you know, get an app from my phone that controls my house. You guys can do that. Thank you very much. So this is all stuff we're investing because the market's good. We're at home. My job isn't being affected. You've had this K-shaped recovery. Most of us are here on the top part of the K. We're fine. But if you're younger, you're a minority, you don't speak such good English, you're on the bottom, and you've really taken it on the chin. But they're not homeowners generally to begin with anyways. That's a social problem, not a problem for us to solve. And if you put all this together, how have household spending done? Everything, goods, services, big things, small things. You can see the recovery was rapid, decline, way up, and then it stops. Because we're at where we are. We can't get better than we are now. We're not going to do any more than we've done. We can't go to the bar. We can't do this. We can't do that because of fear of coronavirus. As a result of this, our economy is literally stuck in this. We just can't get, we have to get higher and push our economy up. We have to get the virus to go away. And that will take 5, 6, 7 months over the next spring and summer months. We'll get there, winter, spring, whatever, you know, June, July, August, whatever we talked about earlier. We'll get there. And you can see in this graph here, the tremendous improvement in these months here show up here. Great month there, and then we're done. So the consumer's not going to improve much, but we don't want to see retrograde decline in spending because that would cause firms to lay off workers, close down, and declare bankruptcy. So the government's going to send us some money. We'll talk about this in a couple of seconds a little bit more, but that's the driving boat here. Manufacturers are very happy because we're buying lots of stuff because we're not going out to bars and restaurants. That's the critical thing. And it's something I missed as an economist earlier on. I kicked myself for not catching this, but it's this forced saving that's going on among people who are employed. We're just not spending like we used to. As a result, we have extra money to spend on other things. I've had people tell me, you know, my wife and I, we used to go out a lot and see our friends, but that was $1,500 a month. Is it worth our friends for $18,000? Maybe it's not worth it anymore. Maybe we'll see our friends by Zoom. I'm joking, but you get the point. We're spending less money on stuff. We have more to spend on other things, including stuff that you're selling, goods and services that you're selling.
Dr. Eisenberg, is this a good time to ask your first poll question?
Sure, absolutely, Melanie. Thank you. That was a great question coming up.
We also, we had a comment about the golf simulator business you spoke on. It's in huge demand here in Southern California. They're spending crazy, upwards of $100,000 for that.
Luckily, I don't play golf, so I'm not even interested in that. But yes, people want entertainment. They want social, something fun to do. And if you kept your job, you can afford it. That's, I mean, people buying swimming pools for the same reason. I can't go to the Y or the public pool or whatever it is, the club. I'll build a pool. I'll build a golf course, essentially, electronic golf course, right? This is exactly what's going on. We're spending money in new and different ways to give us entertainment and allow us to socialize and whatever. Maybe you can even do this virtual golf with your friends, and they have the same app in their house, and you can golf together on TV or on the app.
We've got about 5 seconds. If you can vote, for those of you that haven't, we have about 40% of the vote in. Dr. Eisenberg asked, approximately how much more expensive was your average project in 2020?
If you did a lot more of those golf thingamabobs, it's probably a little more expensive. Factory utilization rates, as you can see, are inching up, continuing to rise, and they'll get better. Part of the reason they haven't improved so much is because inventories have been pushed down, because firms didn't know how this would go, how long it would last. Would people want to buy more stuff? Will they buy what they'll buy? Is it temporary? Is it permanent? So they've run down inventories, but as inventories get built up, this number will improve. So this is going to get better. This will help our economy too. This is why I think 21 is going to be a pretty good year going forward, right? Look at this. This is crazy. And you guys can probably talk to this. Firms are saying, we need to buy more technology and more ways to help our customers do well. So we have to have an online presence, a bigger online presence, plexiglass sheets. I have to have PPE to see clients. I have to have a new app. People can order things online. If I'm a hotel, they have to check into their room on the phone, not touching anybody or seeing anybody. So firms are having to invest. This is equipment, not plans, but equipment. It's doing pretty well too. So things are improving. There's no doubt. Even oil prices are going up now from zero or negative money in April. They're now around $50 a barrel, and you can see drilling is going up. So we're turning the corner in some cases. Some cases we already turned the corner. You can look at the next graph and see, wow, the corporate dividend activity stanked back in March, April, May. No one knew what was going to happen there. Firms were holding back. But now we know we can give guidance, and we know things are pretty good if you're a manufacturer. Manufacturers are friggin' very happy. And you can see dividends are being reinstated and so on, or increased and so on. And that's really good news. Now, government has just come through with money last week, finally. Took them too long. They should have done it several months earlier, but better late than never. $900 billion in my mind is probably enough to get us through. Although now with the Democrats picking up the Senate, they may be more adventurous and do more stuff. This will help spending, and we need it. You'll see in the next couple of graphs why this was so important. You can see real disposable income skyrockets because of government assistance, increased unemployment, $1,200 checks. But you can see that we're just about done. We're now back to kind of trend growth. Another month or two of this, and we'll go underneath trend, and suddenly we'll have more closures and stuff. So we need this support. We also see it here. Savings rates have come down. They skyrocket for a couple of months, and then they begin to come down as we eat through our savings. Poorer people eat through more than the wealthy people, but you get the idea. Once savings gets down here, there's none left. So now the government's going to give us more money. People will have a little extra to keep them through the next couple of months, pay the rent, whatever, car payment, mortgage payment, whatever it is, right? But you can see the stimulus from March. You can see it here, and here was wearing out essentially. Will it increase the deficit? You better believe it, but rates are low. Now is not the time to worry about the deficit of the debt. We can worry about that tomorrow. We have the rest of our lives to cut spending and raise taxes. Right now, in the midst of this really bad economic shock, isn't the time to get fiscal austerity concerned. The dollar's weakening for export purposes. This is good. It helps us export stuff. The dollar's come well down, and it will probably continue to come down now, especially that Democrats have won the Senate. I expect there to be more fiscal stimulus, higher inflation, low interest rates, more negative interest rates driving the dollar down. helping exports a bit, but not a lot. We have a trade war with China that hurts, so that's not going to be a great source of growth. If you put it all together, how's our economy going to do in 2021? This is as good a guess as any. No one knows. We don't know whether Congress will come through with more money. Maybe they won't. How the pandemic will go, how the vaccines will come. There's a tremendous amount of uncertainty, but the general notion is Q1 is going to be a stinker quarter because we're entering it very bad. We're going to have data on job growth on December job growth on Friday. It's going to be about zero job growth. 6 months ago, we had 2.5 million. We've come straight down, 2.5, 1.5, 1,800,000. Last month, 225 or 250,000. This month, probably zero, maybe even negative numbers. So Q1, we enter Q1 with absolutely no momentum of any kind. That's why I expect Q1 to be a pretty crummy quarter. That said, Q2 gets better because the money starts flowing in a serious way. Even in Feb, March, it begins to flow. April, May, June, July, we're now really motoring because the vaccine's really coming on. Summer months, restaurants are opening, we're safer, herd immunity is being reached. And then by Q4, we kind of slow down as we tend to move towards normal future regular growth of 2% of GDP. We'll get there slowly, unemployment keeps falling. So this is my prognostication, bad Q1, and then the rest of the year is pretty good. We just got to get through Q1 and the government assistance will help. Had it not been for the government assistance, this Q1 would be even lower, right? Maybe zero, I don't know. And this is the way the economy has come the end of Q21, into Q3, Q4. So we're 9-10 months away. We'll have GDP back to where it was before the recession began. That's important to keep in mind. It'll take longer for labor markets to recover, much longer. It'll take years for labor markets to recover, only another 9 months for GDP to recover, but longer for labor because we fired tons of people, right? Some company, they had a guy named Rod on their staff. And Rod was nice and friendly, but he didn't do anything. And they fire Rod. And then they say, wow, we don't even notice Rod being gone. So we're not going to rehire Rod or Elliot or something, right? So this is what's happening. Firms are going to be more productive, I think, pushing down inflation. I don't see inflation being a real concern yet. It may, we'll talk about that briefly. This is how many jobs we've lost. Jobs came back and now they're kind of flattening out. Virus is bad, no money, the stimulus just is coming now. Winter months, restaurants closing. It's a whole bunch of bad things together. Temporary, but not great. So Q1 again. Now Q1 being bad for the country doesn't mean it's bad for you. People are locked in their houses, they have their jobs, they have nowhere to go and nothing to spend it on. Let's get a golf course, maybe a simulated Kilimanjaro mountain climbing thing. I don't know. Let's buy 4 Pelotons and make a whole room a gymnasium or something. People do crazy things. This is total job growth, and this is job growth change month to month. You can see these great months here, huge job growth, and then every month it gets worse. That's why we need the stimulus money, because otherwise it would start to go negative. There's no question, because the bad weather, closures, raging virus, you get the idea. Now that would be good for our industry here and low voltage stuff, but you get my point. As a macroeconomist, this is bad. The unemployment rate's way down. That's good. Not as good as it looks, however. The unemployment rate's fallen a lot, but it's fallen in part because we stopped working. Overall, labor force participation in black, men in blue, women in red. You can see the men numbers have generally been steadily improving. Herky-jerky, but generally improving. If you look at the women's numbers, they improve dramatically and then they steadily decline. Why? It's not because women are lazy. No, it's because women have to stay home because Junior's not going to school. If Junior doesn't go to school, mommy stays home. Daddy says, I love you, honey. Bye. See you at 6. And what's for dinner? And mommy stays home and helps Junior do math and history and science and chemistry and biology and French or Spanish or something, right? Donde está el baño or whatever it is, right? I mean, this is a real problem. This is a real problem. We need to get the kids to school as fast as we can so the women can get back to work. This is a double whammy for our economy. It's bad for the kids, it's bad for the teachers, it's bad for the schools, and it's bad for the workers, the companies that need to hire, who need these women to work. Firms are having a hard time finding workers, even though unemployment is high, in part because a big chunk of the staff, people have to stay home and take care of the kid. This is a very bad, serious problem. It hopefully goes away over the next 6 months, but it's been a problem. Labor force, first-time claims for unemployment in this graph, they're very high. They're very high. They ticked up the last couple of weeks, but then they came down. I'm happier. But these numbers are outrageously high. They're about 800,000 a week, people losing their jobs. Prior to the recession, they were 200,000. Prior to this recession, the worst single week for first-time unemployment claims was 695,000. Last week, it was worse than that. So except for these 20, 30 weeks right here, since the pandemic began, last week would have been the worst week in the history of data, even though we're now 40 weeks or 35 weeks subsequent to the beginning of this problem, pandemic. So unemployment remains wildly, wildly high. People are losing jobs. Firms are going out of business. I mean, we're losing 800,000 a week. That's 3.5 million jobs a month. We've got to create 4 million jobs to get a net of 500,000 to really knock down the unemployment, to get job growth back to where job level back to where it was in some semblance of speed here, right? It's tough. And this is a critical slide for us as an industry. You can see here, the more education you have, the less impact the problem is. If you got more than a college degree here in the gold color on the bottom, unemployment's 4%, big deal, no problem. If you have less than a high school diploma, unemployment's closer to 10. You're never going to get a pay raise at that level, high level of unemployment. So the more educated you are, the less impact this has had, the easier it is to stay in your house or buy a house or fix up your house or improve your house or add some addition to your house or whatever. That's why home builders are doing great and we're doing great as a sector, right? This is a good sector to be in. Anything with housing, residential, home ownership is a great sector to be in because of this K-shaped recovery. And interestingly enough, this is something to focus in on going forward. What this shows us is we lost a lot of companies went out of business here in March, April, May, June. But then there's this huge surge in business formation. All applications in dark blue, ones with employees in lighter blue. This area here is much bigger than that. So a lot of people took the $1,200 checks and the unemployment money, and what did they do? They opened up a business, which is phenomenally good for the economy. So firms are more efficient, new firms are opening up. This will put downward pressure on inflation, lower unemployment rates, and real creativity, hopefully solving real economic problems that the economy's thrown at us. Now, inflation, look, in the short run, I don't see inflation. This is the CPI, what you think of as inflation. There's no inflation. This is what we have up to date. Now, could we have it going forward down the road if the Democrats really stimulate the economy and workers don't come back? Yeah, it could happen. But workers will come back. I'm not sure how much stimulus the Democrats will be able to push through. We can talk about that during Q&A, bring up the issue of reconciliation if you want to talk about it. This is the Fed's favorite measure of inflation. It's not the CPI, this one, it's this one. Let's look at the two colors. Blue is headline PCE, personal consumption expenditure inflation. Red is core, excluding food and energy. Are these numbers going anywhere? The Fed wants 2%. But the Fed has changed their entire MO regarding inflation. In the past, and as recently as here, when inflation began to hit 2%, their magical Goldilocks number, the Fed started to raise rates in 18. They raised rates 3 or 4 times each a quarter point, 25 basis. And the economy slowed down. Housing sales went into the garbage can and car sales weakened. They cut rates back in 19. Things began to improve. They raised rates because they saw unemployment getting low. They saw inflation looking to start. They figured, oh, it's going to get worse. Now they're saying no. Now they say we're not going to raise interest rates just because we see unemployment fall. The notion was unemployment falls, that leads to wages going up. And if wages go up, that leads to inflation, because we're going to charge more for the goods and services we sell because we're paying the workers more money to make the stuff that we're selling. Not so easy. Global competition, China, more robots. This relationship between wages and inflation is not nearly as clear as it used to be. The Fed now says, no, we're only going to raise interest rates when we see inflation, when we know inflation expectations are above 2%, and inflation itself has been above 2% for some considerable time, because we want to make up for the low levels of inflation here that were below normal trend, which means they're not going to raise rates for a good long time. We can argue whether it's end of 21, end of 22, end of 23, But it ain't going to happen tomorrow, that I can promise you. This is trimmed inflation. So you're knocking off the cheapest goods that will go up least and the ones that go up most. Do you see inflation here? No inflation there. Okay, and look at this. People say, but the money supply is going way up. Yeah, it's true, sort of, kind of. Look at the velocity of money. It's fallen like a friggin' anvil, dropped off a cliff. So no one's spending the money. The money isn't going anywhere. No one's investing it. The banks aren't lending it and so on. There's no friggin' inflation. So this is my expectation for inflation. Come 22, towards the end of 22, they're going to raise interest rates. Maybe now with Democrats picking up the Senate, the Democrats will be more expansionary and they'll try and raise rates, try and raise fiscal spending and more stimulus money. That may cause more inflation, but I'm not thoroughly convinced. I'm more convinced than I was a day ago, but I'm by far convinced. And here, if you ask the central bankers when they think rates will go up, you can see there's no real increases. This is through 2020, the darkest color, nothing. Through 21, nothing. Through 22, one person out of 17 thinks they're going to raise rates once in 22. Now, they may reassess this in 3 months or something, right? But essentially, it's hard to see inflation, them raising rates, given their new MO, that they're not going to raise rates until inflation's well above 2%, and they expect it to continue to be above 2%. That's when they'll start to raise. So they're going to hold it back for longer. They just are. Now, politics, very briefly. We are currently, literally right now, in red dotted. Trump's in the White House. Republicans have the White House and the Senate. Democrats have the House. Up until yesterday, we were going to move to dotted blue, where Democrats get the White House with Joe Biden. Democrats keep the House, Nancy Pelosi. Republicans kept the Senate with Mitch McConnell being leader. But just yesterday, Democrats picked up the Senate. So maybe we move somewhere between dotted blue and solid blue, because the Democrats are going to be able to control the agenda on the Hill because they're going to control both chambers. They're not going to have veto-proof majorities, or they're not going to have filibuster majorities to do a lot, but they can do things through reconciliation. They can raise taxes, cut taxes, and increase spending. It's complicated and there's limitations and so on, but they can do things now they couldn't do just a day ago. So Biden walks in with a cabinet that he wants and more maneuverability. And the expectation is Democrats will spend more money, pushing up inflation a little bit and helping our economy in the short run more, right? That's the expectation. We'll see how it turns out. Now, let's talk about housing, and then we'll answer some questions. We're going to go through a lot of housing data. First, existing home sales are spectacular, but they're done. They're not going to get any better. Last couple of months, they've peaked out. I'm going to show you a bunch of slides. I'm going to show you over and over again. Housing sales will not improve. New, existing, starts, permits, pending, they've all capped out. Here you can see existing sales capped out. There's nothing to buy. There's no inventory left to get. That's why it's going to be hard. This is existing home sales vis-a-vis prior years. And you can see the gap between the yellow, or last year's number was the darker one here. This is last year's number. The gap between here and there is kind of getting narrower. It was terrible here on the negative side. It gets spectacular here, and then it kind of peters out. Things don't go up forever. We're kind of at the peak we can be at. Don't forget, prices of homes keep going up. Incomes aren't going up that fast unless you have stock to sell, and that's wealth. Little different, but it helps. So there's reasons why housing sales aren't going to keep going up. I think they've really maxed out. If you look at first-time mortgage applications, here again, this is 20 years of data. Now let's look at year over year, layering over. You can see the same thing here. This is where we are now compared to last year. The gap hasn't changed. It's elevated, but not rising anymore. It rose here in May, June, July, or April, May, June, whatever those months were. And then it peaks out and it stays. That gap is consistent. Where we are now, where we were then, that gap is fixed. We're not going to do better. So mortgage applications aren't improving anymore. Existing sales aren't improving anymore. So your business is not going to get better simply because more homes are selling. And what's selling? Expensive homes. These are the most expensive houses, over $766,000. They're doing the best, right? Because these people who live downtown in a condo or apartment and want to get out of Dodge and get out of downtown New York or Los Angeles or San Francisco and move to exurbia, They're the ones who can do it. If you're poor, you can't move. You're stuck in your apartment. But if you're rich and you got 10 million bucks, you can buy a second home or sell this and move there or whatever you want to do. You own the company, so you can work from wherever you want. It's easier. As Jay Gatsby said, the rich are different. They have more money or something along those lines, right? But you get the point. So it's expensive houses. They're going to invest in their homes. They're going to put in golf, simulator golf, and so on. And the problem I alluded to earlier was no inventory. You can see this infinitesimally small inventory that's available. There's nothing friggin' to buy. The fact that we can keep sales as high as they are, as inventory has absolutely plummeted from here to there, is astounding. That we've held up as well as we have in light of this reduced inventory. And the reason inventory is so low is because the stupid builders didn't build any damn houses, pardon my language. They never got the memo in the 2000 decade of 2010 through 20. They just forgot to build homes. Instead, they were buying those golf simulators and they were practicing their game and they brought their handicap down, but they weren't building any damn houses. So we're well underbuilt by 5 million homes. And therefore we have this chronic shortage. Builders are building more, but not enough to make a difference. Demand is insatiable. Rates are low. We can't build enough homes. It's great to be a builder now, but this inventory shortage is a serious problem. Builder happiness, my God, these guys are so happy. It's like they're all smoking pot. Well, look at them. This is the history of this index. 2 months ago, that was the highest happiness they've ever been. Last month, it went down from a record to a little bit lower record. But prior to this would have been a record, this number right here. Builders are crazy happy. They can sell anything they want now. They're selling expensive homes because rich people are buying. They're not building at the low end. They're building at the middle and upper end because that's where the money is, which makes sense. But they're very happy. Now, why did we have so few homes built over the last decade? Land costs drive up the price of houses because it's hard to get a lot. It's hard to, now developers can't get money to develop lots, so we're very short lots. Labor is a huge problem again. If you look at all the construction, residential construction data in blue, it's back to normal. And if you look here at the specialty trade contractors in red, they're back to normal. So the builders are facing a massive unemployment problem. There's no workers to get. Here we are in the aftermath of a terrible recession. Unemployment's elevated and builders can't find workers. So land's expensive, labor's expensive. And get this, lumber's friggin' out of control. Lumber got cheap, relatively cheap here, but then the mills closed down to clean up and maintain themselves. And the mill owners don't believe this is a persistent demand for housing. So it took them a long time to get to start processing more lumber. And now they're closed down for the winter because that's what they always do, even though the builders are going crazy right now and want more lumber. So you've got all these input problems. And on top of that, you've got the AIM group issue where everyone's fixing up their house and they want more lumber and they're doing more rental work. You can see here, rental work goes up. So it's hard to get workers because they're going to do rental projects as well. It's really wild. This is new home sales. They've also peaked because the builders simply can't get enough lots to build. Developers can't get lots to develop on. We're peaked out. This is the best we can do. 1.6 million units is all we got. 1.2 million single fam units, of which 900,000 or a million are for sale. Other ones are custom, right? And you can see here the same graph. Existing new home sales are flattening out. They collapse in the spring. They recover dramatically over 1, 2, 3 months, and then they peter out. And that's where we are now at the 800, 900,000 range. That's what it's going to be. I think new sales, existing sales, all these numbers are what they've been the last 5 or 6 months. They're not going to get any better than they are. They're very high. And inventory of new homes is infinitesimally tiny also. You can see where my cursor is. It's about half of what it was back here. Inventory of existing homes, which was way back when here, I'll show that slide again, just to reinforce the point here. Inventory was 4 million units at its peak. It's now 1.25. It's a third of what it was. There's nothing out there to purchase. That's the big problem, right? And in terms of overall construction activity, you can see the only sector doing well is res. That's it. Everything else is worse than it was coming from January. Everything else. There's levels of badness, not so bad here, much worse there. Lodging, and no one's building a hotel right now, right? Forget about that. And you can see it here. This is the graph. This is residential construction. Since the pandemic began, it collapsed for 2 or 3 months and then goes up like crazy. Conversely, private non-res in green down, and public flat. And then public will have problems going forward because tax revenue is going to be shrinking a little bit, right? This is starts. Starts have peaked out. They're kind of done. You can see here before the pandemic began was very, very good because of great weather in the upper Midwest. And then it collapses in the recession and then it recovers, but it's kind of done. We're done. That's it. Now, this can stay for a while. I think we can maintain these levels because inventories are so small and demand is so big. And demographics are very favorable going forward. People are going to, the younger millennials are aging into home buying. Interest rates are going to stay low. Home prices are going up, which is a driver to buy a house because you want to get in before it gets even more expensive. Although I think home prices will appreciate more slowly this year than last because there'll be a little more inventory and because people will start putting their house on the market because they're not fearful of COVID, people coming with COVID so much. Rates are going to stay low. So demographics are good. Rates are good. There's a lot of good stuff going on. Pending home sales, like all the other data I showed you, has peaked out. It recovers here, and then the gap between the prior years and the current year kind of flat. So it's at an elevated level, but it's not getting any better. That's the point I want to drive home to you. Credit's still hard to get. So as credit gets easier, as these millennials move into home buying age more, there'll continue to be demographic, strong demands for housing, easier credit, low rates, good demographics. Those are powerful drivers. We're just going to lose the COVID influence and the wrecked spring selling season that improved the summer and fall data, right? So we had huge demand prior to the pandemic. That's not going to go away. In terms of forbearance, which is, I think, the only real fly in the ointment in the short run, I don't think it's a real problem. There aren't that many homes. It's 5.5%, 2.5 million, 2.7 million units are in foreclosure problems, right? Forbearance problems. If those come on the market at $50,000 a month for a year or two, because some will get worked out, obviously, no one's even going to notice. No one will even notice the inventory is so tight. A couple more slides, we wrap it up what's going on here and the overall gist of the economy. This is how the economy was in August. Darker is better. Michigan did great in August because the car manufacturers were revving back to life after being closed in April, May, and much of June. Darker is better. Look at the latest data now for November. Darker, lighter. Yeah, darker, lighter. The economy is weakening. That's why we needed that fiscal stimulus. Net job growth month over month had been steadily declining for 7 straight months or 6 or whatever the data is, right? We needed it. Going forward, where's growth going to take place? This is where it's taken place over the last 10 years. In the east of the Mississippi River, which is right here where my cursor is, it was the South, lower taxes, good weather, nice homes, cheap houses, no traffic. Out west, it was Texas, and then the Intermountain West, essentially, right? Colorado, Utah, Arizona, Nevada, Idaho, with honorable mention to Washington and Oregon. I think Washington and Oregon slowly slow down because home prices there are crazy. And California was doing well earlier in the decade. They lost population in 2020 for the first time ever, or like in 200 years or so. So these are the states to focus in on going forward. That are opening up a business. These are some of the places I would go. You want this combination. Idaho's doing great. There's people moving from Washington, Oregon, and California to Idaho. They're moving to Sacramento. They're moving to Reno. They're moving to Phoenix. They're moving to Denver, right? They're moving to Salt Lake City. These are places that are doing particularly well. The economy will go through a tough spell in Q1, but we will recover, no doubt. The fiscal stimulus will help. There may be more stimulus coming down the road. Q2 and Q3 improve because the vaccine comes out, the weather gets better, COVID kind of goes away. And by Q3 or Q4, we're in the new normal, whatever that looks like. In the short run, I don't see rates going up and I don't see inflation being a problem. It could be in the longer run, although the jury's still quite out on that one. I've spoken for too long, but I'm more than happy to take questions for as long as there are questions worth asking. This is how to get a hold of me, my name, cell number, phone number, Twitter handle, email address and stuff. I put out 70 words on the economy every day. No graphs, no ads, no charts, no links, no photos. If you want to get it, you can just sign up or text. Go to my website, here, email me or text the word bow tie, one word, bow tie, 6 letters, 1 string, no space, with a 5-digit number 22828. You'll hear from me every day. It'll be prompted for an email address. You'll type in your email address. Thank you for subscribing. It will say, I look forward to answering your questions. I hope I've given you insight on the shape and speed of the recovery, why and how, and what it means to you. I'm eager to answer your questions. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Eisenberg. We do have a few questions. The first being, with the involuntary separation in 2020 slide, do you think the jobless benefits, the 600 plus unemployment right now, affected the number of people going on unemployment? And
Oh,
was it
sure.
affected enough to cause the historic claims?
The historic claims, no, absolutely not. The claims are so astoundingly high, it's unbelievable. No, but they certainly did influence it. There's no question. When you were getting $600 a week, so $2,400 a month on top of your state unemployment benefit, you were making, at least $3,200 a month. That's 75 or 80% of workers made more on unemployment than they did working. Now, with the reduced amount, it's 50% of workers. So it's still not trivial. Now, the next question to ask here is, let's suppose you're right. I don't think you are, but let me concede the argument to you. I think it's still worth it because we needed that money to circulate in the economy. If those workers didn't get the money, they wouldn't have any money, and then they wouldn't spend any money, and other firms would close down. You're never getting a free lunch in economics. The question is the pain economic problem of higher induced unemployment through government policy worse than the increased stimulative effects of that money coursing through the economy in the short run? I think that's the question you have to ask. Now, you and I could come down on different sides on that question. You may say, no, let them, don't give them the unemployment benefit, force them back to work. You can argue and say, well, would there be jobs for them to get? So it's not so easy, but don't focus just on one side of that question. Ask both sides simultaneously. And we could have an offline conversation, but it's a great question to ask. Melanie?
Yes, thank you. The next question, although product sales have gone up for now, where do you see is the future growth in?
I think it's the ramp up that we experienced is over. It's completely done. I think we're going to have good numbers going forward because people who kept their jobs are happy. The stock market's important to pay attention to. If it comes down, it's kind of a little overvalued. I'm not a stock market expert here, so don't quote me on, and I'm not a financial planner, so don't sue me. If the stock market falls 20, 30%, short run, albeit, but some trauma there, that could certainly reduce demand. But new construction is going to continue. Builders are building higher end homes. They've stopped building entry-level homes. So these folks are buying into a mid-level home or upper-level home where they have more money and they're going to want fancier electronics in the house. And the demographics are favorable. Unemployment is low. And there's pent-up demand that was there before the pandemic began. So I think we're at the level we're going to be at for the foreseeable future. Your job is to make your applications easier for people to find you and buy the services or product mix that you're selling, the package, if you will, right? Partly goods and partly services. And convince people they can't live without it, right? I mean, I never thought of having a home movie theater in my house. That was beyond my meltdown challenge. I couldn't imagine. First time I saw it, I was like whiplash. It knocked me over with a feather. You've got to convince us that we need these services, that our phone is our best friend. We can keep our temperature and look at people breaking into our house and feed the birds and open the doggy door and whatever it is. That's how I think you're going to also help. Newer, younger folks want more stuff.
The next question is, will a $15 per hour national minimum wage affect inflation?
Not a lot. There aren't a lot of people making minimum wage. Now, of course, minimum wage varies from state to state and city to city, but it's $8.25, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But between $8.25 and $15, there are more workers. Again, not a lot, but there are. So what this will do is cause a one-time boost in inflation, because I was making $10 an hour, and now I'm going to be making 15. It may take 2 or 3 years to get there, $1 a year. I'm in Florida. We're raising $1 a year for 6 years or something. So there'll be constant inflation for 4 or 5 years, and then it stops. So this is not going to be a major driver. It will cause inflation for a year or two or something like that. It also could cause movement in jobs, because outside Miami and Fort Lauderdale and Tampa, Florida is a low-wage state. I'm not sure how many firms here will pay $15 an hour in some of the poorer counties, just like in Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, New Mexico, Arizona. Some of these states are much cheaper states than California and New York, Massachusetts, Oregon, and Washington. These coastal states are much more expensive. So work may well migrate to we may have some very strange outcomes. This law will very adversely affect the poorest, lowest income states. As this becomes more common, and if it becomes a federal rule with the Democrats now in control of the House and Senate, they may push for something like that. As long as it stays on a state-by-state basis, it's not going to have so much of an implication, but there'll be some mild inflationary effects.
Okay, the next question. This is more related to the attendees on the webinar today. Someone is asking if they should focus more on selling more products or provide more service-related revenue.
Wow, that's a great question. I mean, that's the age-old question of, you sell product now, it's great, and then it stops. But that recurring revenue from the maintenance contract to the annual upgrades of the software and the visits once a year to make sure things are working, that recurring revenue is very magical. I guess as an economist and as a risk-averse guy generally, I would recommend, not putting your eggs in one basket and doing some of each. When it's better here, you do a little more there. When it's better there, do a little more there, sure. But don't forsake the other side of the equation. Because at some point, I tell this to loan officers, when now a refi wave is so strong, get the refi wave, great. But don't lose your first-time mortgage purchasers. You can't lose that customer base because they're going to be there all the time. The refi comes and goes in waves. Similarly here. But I mean, the new product will continue. New homes keep getting built. The average price of new homes keeps going up. They end up becoming increasingly technology laden. So you want to kind of get in bed with a builder somewhere and have you be their sole provider of technology, in-house low voltage technology or something.
Thank you. Next question, how will a possible drastic change in immigration laws change the economy?
That's a great question. All right. This gets to population growth. GDP only goes up for two reasons. People work more efficiently. So you can install 4 systems a week, not 3, with the same staff. And more people working. So you have the same productivity, but you have now 4 teams working, not 3 teams working. US population growth this past year, 2020, was the lowest in history, which was followed by 19, which had been the lowest in history. We don't have births over deaths occurring because we're all watching football on Sundays. You can thank Pete Rozelle for that. We just don't want to get between the sheets. It's just no longer fun. Tell your husband or wife or boyfriend or girlfriend you want to have sex tonight. And tell them Dr. Eisenberg told you to do it. And if they say no, say, okay, I'll go to the bar and have sex with some random person. I don't mean to be insulting here. We need more kids. If we're not going to have births over deaths, then we have to bring in immigration. And if we don't bring in immigration and we don't have births over deaths, and we have higher deaths because of a little bit because of coronavirus this year, and in prior years because of unhappiness, deaths, I forgot the word, but people taking drugs and so on, our population growth is 1/3%. This is going to have very serious ramifications for GDP growth and for the financial solvency of Social Security. So we face a host of problems a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades down the road if we don't do something on immigration. So if it were up to me and if it was purely an economic issue, I know it's not. I get that. We've been tearing apart over politically about this issue for decades. I would open the doors and try and increase immigration. You come here for a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or a PhD and you want to stay, be my guest. Oh, you're rich, you want to buy a passport? Yeah, I'll let you in. We can figure out some rules. They have to come legally. I don't like to see legal stuff, but the illegals that are here, I don't think we have the economic we aren't afforded the luxury of sending them home because we need their work. We want them to actually come into the economy more so, give them some status to protect them so that they work harder, go to school, get a bank, buy a car, buy a house, and do all that stuff. Because otherwise our population is going to start to shrink. So as an economist, I'm very concerned about this issue. And yeah, immigration is the easy solution because people want to come here. We know that. Let them in legally, properly, but let them in.
Okay, 2 last questions. The first one being, when the moratorium on evictions is lifted, do you see an increase in foreclosures?
That's a problem. When the eviction ends, a lot of landlords are going to kick their tenants out because the tenants haven't paid. And now some states may add protection. Florida, New York, various states, coastal states especially, will add some sorts of protections, maybe protections for the landlord as well. But this is going to start there'll be a negative spiral here. The homeowners aren't going to be so affected, right? Because the forbearance programs out there, and there aren't that many homes in forbearance, out of forbearance that aren't paying, and the demand for housing is insatiable. But on the multifam side, this could cause a troubled year. Now, we don't build enough homes. Poor people aren't going to buy homes. They're going to have to rent. When their credit improves, they're going to rent another apartment again. So I see multifam being a great asset class, but maybe not over the next 6 to 12 months for precisely this reason.
And the last question, if you did ask a question, I will send those to Elliot and see if we can have those answered offline. Our last question, thank you for everybody participating. It's been a great Q&A. This last question is, do you think the trade relationship with China will change with Biden in the White House? And will it change for the good or better for our economy?
I don't think it changes much. I think that Trump really did bring home the notion that China's, they don't play fair by the rules, right? They're a predatory trader. It will be hard for Biden to get the cat to walk down, get the cat out of the tree here on this one. There was bipartisan, this is one of Trump's few policies that really had very wide bipartisan support. So Democrats were egging him on along the way here. So I think that I don't see it. No, I really don't. I think this, our economies will grow, but grow further apart. There'll be some onshoring or some reshoring to other countries like Vietnam or wherever it is. Will happen. Not a lot, but it will happen. But I don't see us re-engaging to the level that we did in the past. I think that we now collectively appreciate that China truly is a trading partner at some level, but also a large adversary. And if I was concerned about 1 or 2 things over the next 10 years, it would be our relationship with China politically, economically, and militarily. We have to appreciate that it's a complex relationship with lots of layers, and we're going to agree with China on some things, hopefully a green policy or something, but we may be wild enemies when it comes to the South China Sea and trying to protect Taiwan or something. So this is a complicated relationship. I don't think Biden's going to bring it back.
Well, Dr. Eisenberg, as always, it has been so informative and awesome. And I just want to thank you on behalf of the AIN group for your presentation. We are going to move on to Rod White, but again, thank you so much. You've enhanced our first virtual conference by eons. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was a pleasure, Melanie, everybody. Thank you, Diana. Good luck with every. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye.
And welcome, Mr. Rod White.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Dr. Eisenberg. So I'm going to talk about best business practices here. Mel, if you move to the next slide, this is an exciting time of our event. And we've got some exciting best business practice news for you. Over the past several months, 7 AIN Summit meeting captains met with their team members to tackle some of the industry's most important and strategic topics. And I'll assure you, you don't want to miss experiencing their powerful findings and timely solutions. We're going to start off next month, February 3rd, Larry Wright talking about the AIN National Builder Program. He's going to present the marketing strategy behind it, an overall overview of the program. Then on into March, Mark Osborne, Vice President of the Southeast region of AIN. He is going to be talking about how to maximize RMR. He's going to discover untapped and uncover untapped and unlimited sales resources. And then also about revenue resources, unlock, profitable methods to increase your business. Pete Lopez is going to start off in April on the 7th, and he's going to talk about builder education, training and communication, and how to stay engaged and be relevant with your builders. Also going to cover during that same session 3G and CDMA sunset, and he'll be engaging in the dealer strategies to help address the sunset. John Feldman with Nortec on May 5th is going to be talking about recruiting and hiring and training and termination. Very important and useful resources for all of our businesses. Then on June 2nd, we have both Amy Wesley from HP Products and Jesse Crabb from Metra. Amy will be talking about healthy home and wellness, market definition and demand, builder and homeowner relationships and benefits, and profitable solutions that include all AIN partners. Then Jesse Crabb will round it out with revenue diversification, how to navigate through choppy waters, and with finance, and also explore relevant residential and commercial vertical businesses. Don't miss the best business practice. I encourage you to tune in for that. And we're looking forward to having some good time. That, as always, these are interactive, so it's a good time to step in and help us all out. Thank you for the time to present this, Diana.
Thank you, Rod. And now, VP of Marketing, John Bagney.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. And I'm going to have some exciting offers for you in a few minutes. We will be sharing tips on how to increase your sales over the next 6 webinars. The question that was posed here is going to be something I want you to remember as we go through this. And as you look at these numbers, you'll see that the first 18% figure, that relates to an audience that is now starting to engage in purchasing in a social media site. That's grown quite a bit over the last 2 years. However, the number we want to remember here is that 42%. What that represents is the growing number of people that are being influenced to purchase through a social media site. And lastly, the top 3 sites from last year that are still rated as being the best and most beneficial for raising business are, as you see here, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. But there is another social site that's growing. You'll need to keep an eye on that one. That's Pinterest. Now, in the market of social media, there's a few things, and I'll share with you just a couple of ideas. There's many more, but these are a few that I think are reachable by our dealers. Okay, and the number one reason, if you remember the 42%, why people are using social media is to increase their knowledge. In other words, what we're doing on the internet is we want to influence readers more and be more impactful on the way we do that. So here's a couple of good examples on how to do that. Number one, become an expert, okay? When you're an expert in the field of your industry, get somebody to post, ask questions like wall speakers versus sound bars, answer that question, become an expert, post information that people can look at and understand. And then lastly, another growing field is influence marketing. Look into that. It's something that I believe will help your company out immensely. It's a small investment. An average cost of an influencer to make a post for you is about $273. If you're looking to reach a smaller market, say a poster that has 1,000 followers, you're looking at about $83. It's a great source of marketing strategy for you to look into. Influence the builder market. And then lastly, make sure that people know what you do. Now, that's a question that I hear time and time again from our dealers, that their customers will say, I didn't know you did that. Okay, so how do we fix that? Well, I have a simple way for you to do that and a great offer to make that possible. Next slide, please. To answer this question, and how do we fix this problem quickly and easily on social media? Well, here's how you fix it. Next slide. We all have a social media page. Post this little intriguing graphic, and your readers will be inclined to click it. And when they click on that graphic, go ahead now. This is what they'll see. Now, this is your residential brochure. So that was a quick little 1-2 click through. And now you've got a customer whose screen is filled with your residential brochure. They can select an area that they want to use and reference. There's videos in here. These little black buttons will activate videos. Keep going, and I'll show you a sample of a video and tell you a little exciting preview. Right here, for example, it's tough to sell a garage vac without a video. But by adding videos to your brochure like this, you're able to convince a consumer that this is a great idea. So now that you've seen that little garage video, I want to let you know that somebody's going to win a garage video in about 10 minutes. So what do I have to offer you for an AIN marketing incentive to thank you for attending our event today? What we're going to offer you is that little graphic in a couple different formats at no charge. So watch your email. This is what you'll be receiving from us. In addition to that little graphic to help you get that point across to your customers of everything you do, we will also extend over the next 2 weeks. This will expire on 21/21, a 50% reduction in the 1-year subscription to this digital marketing phenomena that's been taken over the industry over the last year, and especially with our dealers. So I'm going to ask you to watch your email, and you'll see a link to sign up for this offer, and you'll get this little graphic. And I encourage everyone to do a little bit more social marketing. And, in fact, I think it would be really smart if we were to take the distance out of social in 2021.
Thank you, John.
Now we're moving to the most exciting part of the virtual conference. We've got some giveaways. First, we're going to hear just a little bit from our partner, HP Products.
Vacuuming should be convenient, easy, and even a little fun. With the Chameleon retractable hose system, it can be all three. Chameleon features a unique retractable hose to bring the power of your central vacuum to every part of your home. Just pull, vacuum, retract. It's that easy. Chameleon features an automatic hose lock and patented dual seal system to ensure maximum power every time you vacuum. To use, simply pull out the hose, attach a cleaning tool, and go. Twist the hose to release. The Chameleon puts itself away and turns off automatically. Chameleon truly adapts to your every cleaning need. You won't know what you did without it. So upgrade your central vacuum with the Chameleon retractable hose system today.
Okay, so we have HP Products. John alluded to it just a second ago. HP Products is giving away a Vroom all-in-one retractable garage vacuum system kit. It's a value of $499. And if you were on today's call, you could be a lucky winner. And our winner is Kevin Bish. Kevin Bish, you are our lucky winner. We will contact you following the webinar to get you your prize. Next, we will be hearing from Metra. We have Jason Lundell on the line. Jason, it's all yours.
Mel, it won't let me share my
I
screen.
can hear you. Okay, try it now. Diana, just let go.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. Just wanted to touch base with you a little bit, let you know a little bit about what Metra has got in the cooking for this year. Some of the, Mel, are you looking at the website screen by chance?
No, don't.
All right,
do
let me swap. Hang on. Sorry, I'm not prepared on this one. How's that? That better?
Got it. Thank you.
Beautiful. So Metra's been working really hard over the last year to increase our product offerings, to really do some different things that the industry hasn't seen yet. One of the nicest things that we figured we could come out with is we now are offering a full 12-year warranty on a lot of our electronic parts, matrix switches, balun, splitters, switchers. So a lot of the electronics that are available to all of the AIM members are now going to be covered under a 2-step limited warranty process out to 12 years. So that is a industry leading warranty that we have launched, and that is in effect and has been since November 1st. So any of the members that are currently using our electronic products, which is a lot of you, just need to know that you have a 12-year warranty on those products as well. One of the other nice products that we have launched for this year is full 8K fiber HDMI cables. So we can now go out to 330 feet or 100 meters at 48 gigs, 8K. So all of your long distance transmission needs are taken care of very simply with the HDMI cable. And one of the other products that we have just redone and relaunched is our full SpyClops surveillance line. We now have everything from a 4-channel to a 64-channel MVR, as well as XVR or hybrid DVRs available, all for all of the members. A lot of the members use these now, but these have been upgraded, new app, new drivers for Control 4 and the other control systems. And all of that is available to you as a member of AIM. And we appreciate all the business that you have given us over the years, and hope to grow it for this year in 2021. Mel, I'm good.
Thank you, Jason. All good. So Metra today is another partner giving away a prize. They have a 4x1 HDMI multi-viewer. It's valued at over $478.99. And our lucky winner today for the Metra multi-viewer is it's not on the screen, Di.
Wait, sorry about that. Greg Martin.
Greg Martin, congratulations, Greg Martin. You won the Metra giveaway today. And now we are moving on to our final giveaway today. Mr. Kreider from Annixter, it's all you.
Thank you very much, everyone. I don't have a slide or anything to go through. I was just gonna talk with you all a little bit. I am the program manager with Annixter that's responsible for managing and helping work with the AIM group and each and every dealer from coast to coast in order for us all to be successful. I wish we could all be together in Arizona, but unfortunately the pandemic prevents us from that. At least we can gather electronically. I plan on being on every one of these 6 events that we have through the first half of the year. I hope that I'll see each and every one of you back at every event that we have. We'll be taking part and providing a giveaway at each event. You know, I want to thank every customer on here for what you allowed us to achieve in 2020. It's obviously been a very different kind of year for each of us, and we made it through it, thank goodness. we've hit some numbers within our relationship with the AIM dealers out there that we've never hit before, tens of millions of dollars in sales. And certainly we look forward to continuing growing with each and every one of you and continuing being the premier distributor within the AIM program as we go forward. Most of us that are on the call today are involved in sales, and it's all about growing the number. That's no different for my organization. We're tasked to hit a new number every year, just like each of you strive to achieve. We should always be striving to find better ways to partner with each and every customer that we have, providing new ways new avenues to sell you product, working with your local branch to take advantage of some of the services that we can provide you with. What about, for each of you out there that does some upper-ended commercial work, if you have a large video job, work with your branch and let us bring your product in and IP address all your cameras, provide firmware upgrades, test it, make sure you have no dead equipment. Could really be a godsend to the commercial aspect of your business. Another way that you'll see us as we go into 2021 that we want to try and work to grow things is we've never had that much of a presence in the AV space. You're going to see in 2021 that that's going to change dramatically. I encourage each of you, reach out to your local branch. I would certainly bet that they're going to be reaching out to you to let you know what kind of offerings that we have in that space now. We're very excited to be able to provide services within that realm as well. It's a place that we've sort of skirted on before, but we've never went in full bore. You'll see a change in what we're doing there. Any way that we can find to increase our partnership with each of you out there, you buy product from us, every dollar you spend is going to go in your Fly and Stay account. If you have not attended an AIM event yet, for goodness sakes, take advantage when they do come back. It's unlike anything that you've ever went to in this industry. That said, I just want to thank everybody again for a very successful 2020. We look forward to 2021, and whatever I can do to help, please reach out. I'll be glad to help you any way I can. Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. And as Scott said, every week or every webinar, they will be giving something away. Their first giveaway is Ring Video Doorbell 3. It's a value of $199, and our lucky winner will be Dee Straub. Congratulations, Dee. We'll contact you after the webinar to get your information to ship that out to you. So we made it to the end. I just want to thank you all so much. It really hurts our heart, the entire AIN staff, that we couldn't be together in Phoenix in a couple of weeks. And this really is an alternative. It was our very first one. I hope you found it beneficial and informative, and you look forward to the next conferences. We will be doing a virtual conference the first Wednesday of each month, February, March, April, May, and June. You see the dates on there. Above everything, we want to wish you a healthy and happy new year. We appreciate all that you've done to make the AIN group the awesome success it is. And we look forward to speaking with you guys soon. Our next February virtual event, we have Tim Costello. He's going to be talking about striving for growth and thriving in a post-COVID world. He's been a speaker in the past, and we can't wait to have him back. And we have giveaways from Legrand, HP, Annixter, and Zoom. They are giving away a retail value of $14.99 for a complete CCTV system, and you have to be present to win. So if your name was called and you weren't on our webinar, we will be reaching out and selecting an alternative winner. But again, we thank you for your time and your participation today. We appreciate you and we look forward to speaking to you again. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.